Hi, my name is Jennifer Jones, and I'm very excited to be talking with you about concept mapping. It's a method that I used as a graduate student almost 10 years ago, and since then I've been able to utilize concept mapping as a participant and as a researcher and an academic partner, and I'm excited for you all to learn more about concept mapping through the voices of our academic and community partners. So we're very excited that this afternoon we took our concept mapping interviews on the road, and we're currently here at the East Hills Family Support Center talking to academic and community partners who utilize concept mapping as a method for their research study called the Pittsburgh study, and you'll get to learn more about that now.
Well, I'm Val Chavis, and I represent two organizations. The first one is the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh, and I've been with them for 16 years, and I am the director here at the East Hills Family Support Center. In addition, I am the co-lead with Liz Miller for the Pittsburgh study.
And hi, I'm Anna Ettinger. I'm a research scientist at the University of Pittsburgh in the School of Medicine in the Department of Pediatrics, and also am working on the Pittsburgh study, which is a large community-based intervention study that we are just launching now.
Hello, my name is Chantel Reeves W. and I work here in the community of East Hills, and I'm a mother of two.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Sharon Fields, and I'm a resident here in the community, and I'm also one of the community leaders here in East Hills.
So it's really to define what strategies we should use to help children thrive, so be healthy, thriving, and achieving their academic goals are kind of the broad mission of it. So there's not a specific health outcome or illness focus. It's really the overall idea of thriving and what that means to community members.
How this came about is actually July of 2018 when I got brought to the table. And when it was explained to me about the Pittsburgh study, I kind of got taken aback when the whole concept of children not thriving. And I'm like, what do you mean not thriving? And who told you that children are not thriving? And where did you get this from? So because of that, Drs. Miller and Dr. Dermody very humbly said, hey, let's take this out and let's get community's reaction and see what they have to say. And I'm very thankful that they were very open to seeing what other people's thoughts were on the children in this county thriving, healthy, getting a good education.
Yeah, and I actually participated in the concept mapping, the first two, brainstorming and sorting and rating as a participant, and then I joined the study in December. And so then kind of got brought on behind the scenes with the project and helped out with the interpretation sessions as a researcher. Yeah, so we combined the findings from the concept mapping with some just overall literature reviews on child thriving to work towards our conceptual framework for the study, which will then inform what measures we use, ultimately what interventions we want to test later on. So we started by presenting this at our last retreat and got feedback from like the 150 people there. So it's, I guess, a way of just kind of guiding our whole research study and design. Yeah, so we did concept mapping in 3 different neighborhoods. So we're trying to get a diversity across Pittsburgh. So there's the East Hills community, Sheridan community, which is kind of in the west of Pittsburgh, and then Hazelwood. And then we also, so they represented community members and parents in those areas. And then we also had an online concept mapping session that included researchers and practitioners and other stakeholders in the Pittsburgh study that Val was just talking about, all our different community partners. So we have people from the Allegheny County Health Department, other policymakers as well.
I immediately Googled it and got the whole idea of where it went, but just the whole Googling part of it, it gives you an overall of what it means, but it's so varied depending on the idea the concept of where you're trying to go, what is the end result of what you need, and just participating in it just kind of like really blew my mind.
I had never heard of concept mapping before this project either, and really love the idea of kind of a structured approach and going back to the community several times and getting them involved from the beginning through interpreting the data. And it just seems such a great way to establish relationships and get the relevant context for our larger study as well.
I do want to add that I feel like bringing in the community persons, because talking to me, they were asking me what concept mapping, so I was very truthful with them. I don't know before this day, but I Googled it and I talked to them, so they also felt very comfortable to say, okay, we as community persons, we as parents, we also didn't know, but you as a professional that brought this to us didn't know. So it gave them the feeling of, okay, we're all in the same field here, and we're all open, and we're all just giving our own input. And I feel like it made them more comfortable, which probably also made them that much more verbal.
For me, I was puzzled by the words concept mapping, and I was able to connect with when the part said, what does it mean for children in our community to be healthy and thriving? So, but once I looked up what is concept mapping, it's like, oh, I've seen that before. I know what that is. So.
It just seemed like it was very intense, and they were struggling at first, but once each of the team members went around and really sat down with them and helped them think through it, then they were fine. But at first it was just like, what do you mean? And I don't know. They were just sitting there like, I don't know what you mean, and this is a little too much. And I was just like, they kept trying to get me to tell them what to do, and I'm like, I can't. It's your thoughts. It's how you feel like it needs to be grouped. But it ended up being a wonderful thing that they felt proud when they got done. They were sweating, but they were happy. It was done, and they felt like they fulfilled their mission of being part of the concept mapping, and they were just wanting to see what was going to come out of it for session 3.
Yeah, I think it's a function also that our question was so broad and child thriving, and there's so many items that came out of that, and even the reduced list was over 100 items, and to have to sort all of those, and then we had 3 different scales they had to rate on, and people were like telling me they felt like it was a test, and like, you know, like I think the fact that it was all individual, I think, you know, also it's nice that you have different ways of contributing in a group and individually, but I don't know, that session was pretty long, and I think people did feel a little kind of fatigued or burnt out at the end. If there was a way to break it up or make it more engaging, might be helpful. And then, you know, reiterating that there's no wrong answer, that, you know, whatever they think is right is good.
Well, I was just really surprised with the headings that they came up with each group, because when I was sitting there, I was just like, oh, that was good. I don't know that I would have thought of that title. So they really put time, effort, and thought into it. And then when we went to the retreat, just how they put the whole circle together and the information that ended up on the paper, just, I don't know that I thought it through that far. So the researchers and the data person, they really do, they know what they're doing, because I couldn't have got to that point. And some of the participants that were at the concept mapping sessions felt prideful when they saw that piece of paper and they saw like, oh yeah, that was my title. I came up with that. So I feel like that was a good ending, and bringing them there to see like we are doing something. We weren't just there picking your brain and wasting your time.
Yeah, I loved the interpretation sessions. I think the things that people said were so moving and powerful. It really made like the data and the clusters come alive, and how important it was in child's health and their life. So really, I do think the participants, I'm not speaking for all participants, but I personally really enjoyed that session the most, and seeing it all come together.
And I think just knowing what I know about the
For me, part 1, it made me reflect on how far as the locations I grew up in, as well as the decisions I made as a parent. Part 2 rattlesnakes and coconut berries. It was challenging because all the questions had to be answered. Then we had to put them in categories with the phrases. And then sometimes it was like, well, I feel this way, but yet this phrase could fit into several other categories. And then it's like, okay, take a break, let me cool down and go back in, because I want to give it my all and not just do a half job, because I really want it to be meaningful and get some great results.
Yeah, I had the similar experience, and I really thought it was just me and my impatient self. But I'm so glad it wasn't this time. but other than that, the tedious part, because like she was saying, I'm a piggyback off of her. When you see one thing how you're feeling that one sentence, then you see something else. It's a similarity to it, but not as quite, but you are feeling it as well as also. So it was like, well, how am I going to put these two together to make it work for me? And that was a little tedious, but it worked out.
It's something else how you have the variety of different people, different neighborhood, have similar ideals or thoughts. And it's like, oh, I didn't think of that, but that's a good one. And then other ones, you're like, what's the purpose of that? But yeah, just like, okay, respect, that's how you feel. So I like, it was fine. And how they had the map of, I can't think of the different maps, the parts of the different groups. So it was interesting to see it all come together, all the thoughts come together. Prompt me like, okay, you need to get more involved in your child's school versus just laid back, get more into seeing how they're really educating my child rather.
And I just took the aspect from, my mind went to some of the community residents that their child is doing tremendous in school as far as their grades, and they know what they're talking about, but the parent isn't sure, feels inadequate. Now, those are parts that I think we need to work on as far as that goes, without hurting that parent's feelings or making them look like they're dumb, especially in front of the children. And that's a hard piece that got to me, because I know a lot of families or residents, as you say, is that situation. And now that's one of the things we need to figure out how to resolve. Oh, well, it was delightful, because everybody was just as confused as everybody else was.
Yeah. And it just opened up.
But then that really got us to communicating with each other better. And then we started networking from the different clusters. We started networking within each other, say, oh, look, don't feel like all like that, because I don't know what I'm doing either. So it made it comfortable, because we were all in the same boat.
That's what I was going to say.
And then then another thing I think we should have seen some resolutions to all these concept mapping while we were there.
Sometimes people it's like, oh, I can see my words or what I came up with, and some people are like, wait a minute, I said this and it's not on here, or I would never group these things together this way. So trying to again explain, like, we are incorporating your data, but it's a kind of aggregate group level is sometimes challenging.
For me, this process made it more real in regards to the Pittsburgh study, and I feel like anyone that's doing a study or coming in to do any type of community work, this is going to keep you honest. This will keep you on your toes. It brings buy-in as far as participating in a study. I feel like with the Pittsburgh study or any research that does the concept mapping, it brings honesty and truth and buy-in, and it lets each person, whether it's at a community level or it's someone that's going to, a grantor or grantee that's going to give money, you are really sitting here saying, yes, we did the legwork, yes, we got buy-in, yes, we have these answers, and this is what's going to fuel our study. that's just how I feel for it. I can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah, no, I think I totally agree with all of that. I think it's such a great tool. I mean, maybe not applicable in every situation, but a great way to get community support and their perspectives and language that you can use. I will say that advice I would give is like that planning phase being so important and critical, and thinking about what you want at the end so that you are, inclusive of the participants that you want. So like I said, now we're including youth, and I'm like kind of like, oh, it would have been nice to have them from the beginning to do all the phases versus trying to add them in at the end, or what your focal prompt is, kind of making sure that's going to give you the data and the answers that you need. Because again, you can't. It's harder, to change it at the end. But I guess hindsight's always 2020.
Yes.
And then just reiterating that how important it is to really try to explain what this is, and maybe there's a good way to try to explain it depending on who you're doing concept mapping with, and probably.
As far as the participants, just need to be ready to be involved, brainstorm, and don't feel bad if it sounds like you have a dumb answer or your question is off in the left field. You might get one or two be like, but it's like, you know what? You don't know until you try it, and you get better at it. And being around a great team of people to help support you and increase your knowledge. So.
Right, and it's, it's just that it's a great thing that to be getting started, but like I said, we need to see results from all this, and then that way we can stop doing some of the repetitious things that's been going on down through the years and flip it over to something new and different of the concepting of the mapping. That's what I think.
All right, Val, well, we really appreciate you letting us come here today to talk about concept mapping and opening your doors to the Family Support Center for this. Is there any other last words or anything else you wanted to share?
I actually do. After we wrapped up and I was kind of doing my takeaway, something that I thought of was the word thriving. When I first came into this back in July, my first thought was negative in regards to the word thriving. It felt for me it was a deficit to the children in the county of Allegheny County. But going through this process and listening to those that participated, whether they were a professional, a community person, being a parent, a grandparent, someone that wasn't even a parent, their words, their thoughts, their ideas changed my way of thinking towards the word thriving. So every person has a different connotation for it, and I feel like going through the whole concept mapping changed my way of thinking in regards to the word, and I'm pretty sure it changed a lot of people's thinking, whether it was concept mapping, whether it was how they viewed their communities, how other people viewed the community. So I think this was a great thing. I think Allegheny County is, on their way to being on the map with this concept mapping with the University of Pittsburgh and Children's Hospital with the Pittsburgh study. And once again, I want to say, the researchers, the scientists, the medical community were just so humble in opening up and being available to learning what the community partners had to say. So I want to say thank you to all of them.
So concept mapping, you can truly learn a lot, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's very educational.